The issue was also the timing, right? Because when GST came out, that's when the ringgit also took a massive hit. Did that sort of like? I'm very curious, Sam. Why we chose to kind of do this cover now? Because, you know, this whole thing about GST and M40 bearing the brunt. I mean, most people, if you talk to anybody out there, they'll probably say, yeah, you know, it's so obvious. I mean, the point's almost moot. I mean, like, why did we decide to kind of write about it now?
I think what we wanted to look at was how the impact has been like over the past 3 years, because there are reports that say, you know, after a period of time, GST should have normalized. People shouldn't feel the pinch anymore, and businesses also shouldn't be feeling the pinch. So we just wanted to look into that and see whether are people still being affected by it or not.
So people clearly are still being affected by it, right?
I think it's difficult to pinpoint whether or not it's GST exactly that they feel affected by, but it is still like a topic that comes up a lot. People out there still want to get rid of it, so they still see it probably as a sort like a burden.
Yeah, because of cost of living and all this.
Yeah.
I mean, because it wasn't the issue was also the timing, right? Because when GST came out, that's when the ringgit also took a massive hit.
Yeah.
Did that sort of like exacerbate our woes?
Yeah, so when the ringgit fell, I think a few months after GST was implemented, we could see that prices sort of went up after that as well. And so we can't, and it's difficult to sort of break down exactly what in the price increase was caused by GST and what in the price increase was caused by the ringgit.
The other thing that you mentioned was that the B40, the bottom 40, did not really feel the impact of GST, because if you look at their grocery list, most of it is GST exempt anyway, which is something that I think Dato' Subramaniam from the Customs Department pointed out. Very important now that elections have finally been called, but he seems to think there's no impact, but somebody said there is impact.
So it's difficult to sort of break down the exact impact, and I think one of the economists we spoke to, Lee Hing-Jui, said that we will need more data to know exactly how much of the B40's spending has been you know, subject to GST. So when they did the study under customs, it was 37%. But then if you look at the 2016 household expenditure survey, I think food came up to about 25.5%. So we don't know exactly how much their spending patterns have changed, whether GST had a role to play in that. But suffice to say, there are people who are saying that definitely because of the amount they spend on zero-rated items, that they are not as badly impacted as the M40.
But more needs to be done to see whether or not that's completely true.
Yeah, more studies.
All right, so contentious issue, right? The reason that the government put in GST was because oil prices had fallen off a cliff, right? And a lot of the revenue for the government came from Petronas, you know, oil revenue. But oil's coming back up, so people are arguing is like, why is there still GST?
Interesting to note that oil prices actually fell after GST was implemented, and that people have been talking about implementing GST long before like they actually implemented it in 2015, or they tabled it in 2014. So like an argument I guess that has been around is that the government needs to diversify its revenue. Whether or not oil prices go up or down, it still needs to have revenue coming from somewhere a bit more stable, and that's domestic.
Fair enough, I understand that. But one more contentious issue is that we are not in the same place now. Ringgit has strengthened quite considerably. A dollar is a lot to actually happen, and oil prices are sort of improving. So why do prices never really come down?
One economic argument is that prices are sticky downwards, and one could argue that businesses, there would be a cost to actually having to lower prices or increase prices every time the ringgit moves. So businesses are not as quick to change prices, but one of the things that was brought up when it came to the implementation of GST is that some traders use it as an excuse to raise prices. And even though we had the Anti-Profiteering Act, which was put in place, I think 3 months before GST was actually implemented, a lot of traders took the opportunity to increase prices actually before that even happened. So
is the government doing something about it? At least they're cracking down on these unscrupulous fellas?
yeah, so we do have the KPDNKK that has been taking action. How successful it has been, we don't really know.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.